Hi, I'm here today with Bob Mulligan, who's going to be giving a workshop on February 15th, 2025 on astrology, karma, and reincarnation. It's going to be a hybrid workshop for the Florida Atlantic Chapter of the NCGR. That means if you're anywhere near Fort Lauderdale, you can attend in person or you can attend remotely online from anywhere in the world. Bob, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to tell us a little bit about your workshop. Um, I believe the workshop is $40 for NCGR members, and you can go to our website, https://astrologyfla.com. All the details will be there. Bob, will you have the details on your website as well?
Yes, but
What's
also
what's your website, Bob?
theastrologycompany.com.
Great.
All
All
one word.
right. And the workshop will be going from 10 a.m. to
Five.
5 p.m. All right. So we hope to see you there. It's going to be a bit of a reunion. A lot of folks are going to come out of the woodwork to be there in person. And some of us, such as myself, well, we'll be there astrally anyway. Bob, your workshop is called Astrology, Karma, and Reincarnation. What I wondered is, are you also going to be talking about Dharma in this workshop? And could you refresh the people watching this, the difference between Dharma and Karma?
Big topic. But yes, of course, uh,
Briefly.
karma is the necessary and natural consequence of every action. So whatever you do comes back to you, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. Um, so there's different types of karma, but that's not important. What's important is to understand that it's law of action and reaction. Dharma is your essence. There's two common definitions for Dharma. One is the Hindu definition, which is your life's duty. You can think of it as more like your job in life. And the Buddhist definition of Dharma is your essence. Uh, Everything in the chart has something to say. It's all karma in one sense. And in another sense, it all expresses what your life's mission is about, what your essence is. And that's the Dharma. Again, we could go deep into this, and in the workshop, we flesh this out a good deal, describing, how your mind, your emotions, and your actions are reflected in the horoscope. It's big. It
Well,
took,
I have so many other questions for you. I'm happy you're going to be covering it in the workshop. Could you show me the cover of your book, Bob?
oh, sure.
The Heart of Astrology.
Yeah, this is the book cover was designed by Paula Bellamini, and she is the same person who did the interior design of the book.
The layout. Excellent.
She works for the publishing company Regulus in the UK, and they're publishing the book.
Wonderful. Why did you decide to write this particular book now, Bob?
Well, I started it 20 years ago in the year 2004 when my spiritual master, Meher Baba, asked me to write a book on using astrology to raise consciousness. And so in, I did what any astrologer does when you're going into a subject that is new to you. I read everything that everybody else had written on it that I could get my hands on, and spent a lot of time in meditation and reworking old articles and things that other people had done, and talked to a number of other people in astrology, but mostly it was time spent in deep inner work on myself. Um, I developed a relationship that's quite different with the great mother astrology, the divine mother, and with each one of the planetary deities that we look at as the creator of our inner psychological state as well as external events, meaning that Mars is a real entity existing independent of the human kingdom, but he also manifests as your immune system and as your inner state of consciousness, as anger, the empirical research side of your nature, but also as fire in the external world. And so we have this triangle between the planet and an inner state and the external manifestation for every one of
The
the
planet.
planets. And I take people through some understanding of that, in each chapter of the book dedicated to one aspect of this, and then, to tie it all together. I chose this chapter 10 of the book, Astrology, Karma, and Reincarnation, because I felt that it was a good synthesis that allowed people to see sort of the overview of the whole panorama of what goes on in a realm of spiritual astrology. Astrology itself is spiritual. Of course, people use it for all kinds of things, predicting the weather.
Electional. Now, I wanted to ask, is that Mir Baba right behind you in
Of
two of
course,
those paintings?
of course,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Um, what can participants expect to learn from this workshop?
Well, two things. One is they'll understand themselves a lot better, and they'll have a deeper understanding of what they have as gifts that they can use to maximize their efficiency in life. And they have a system for going and looking and seeing what's not working. How am I tripping myself up? How am I getting in my way? And break out of the pattern of feeling victimized by life. And it seems to be that people pay lip service to a lot of great ideas that they never put into practice in their life. And the point of this book and of the workshop is, hey, there's something you can, if there's something you don't like, you can do something about it. And here are the tools. And you had them at your disposal, you just didn't know it. It was always like Dorothy, you can click your heels together 3 times and go home. You
Now,
know,
now you're still a consulting astrologer, Bob, right?
yeah.
How
I,
long have you been reading charts for people? Go ahead and dazzle us.
oh, uh, a little more than 50 years. Um, yeah, it's been, and I have clients now that I've had from the early days. And and my practice, of course, has changed a
You
great.
must really know their charts at this point.
Well, I know the people who come to see me, even if I've seen them for the first time, I have a deeper understanding of them than I do other people in life that I don't work with. I don't have their charts. Um, and of course, yeah, it's yeah, and Scott, and any other practicing astrologer knows that you feel like Johnny Carson at times, like people tell you stuff that you think, oh my God, they're telling me this stuff that they don't tell to anybody else. And and it is overwhelming, but it is a sacred mission because when you look at somebody's chart, you're looking into the soul of the individual. You see their whole life path, uh, all of the struggles that they have gone through and all of what they have to go through. And it is inspiring. And I'm very careful now. When I first, and I recommend it to all my students, when you first start doing astrology, say yes to everything. You know, do a chart for anybody and everybody that you can. For me, at 76 years old, more than 50 years in the field, I'm pretty selective. You know, if I don't feel that in an interview, if I don't feel that I'm going to be able to do something meaningful for the person, I don't see them. If I don't feel love for them, I don't want to waste their time or my time. So,
How did you get started in astrology?
how did I get started?
Yeah.
I went to, Kathleen Burt, who is a very fine astrologer, was my Indian history professor. And and when I was an undergraduate in college, and uh, she worked for Swami Kriyananda at the Temple of Kriya Yoga in Chicago. And somebody had mentioned to me, I had gone to see him, and he looked at my chart. I went with my girlfriend. I am a Libran, and so I was interested in relationships. And my girlfriend and I went, and he read our charts together. And he looked at my chart and he says, Bob, you're going to become a professional astrologer. And he told me all kinds of stuff, and he really saved me and from many, many difficulties in life. But I thought he was nuts when he said that because I thought I have no interest in being an astrologer. But as it happened, 6 months later, I became a professional astrologer.
Can I tell you a weird coincidence? I didn't realize I had forgotten that Kriyananda was your teacher. I just ordered a book by Ray Grass on Shelley Trimmer,
Oh,
who,
yes.
who was Kriyananda's teacher. Literally 45 minutes ago, I wanted to see what else Ray Grass had to say about Shelley G, right?
Uh,
Who was also Steve Cozy's,
right.
the late astrologer Steve Cozy's teacher as well. So
Yes.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I didn't have a spiritual master when I met Kriyananda, I probably would have been one of his disciples. But I just studied astrology with him. I had great respect for him. And,
How
I
long
know,
did you study astrology with Kriyananda?
oh, you know, um,
Am I saying his name correctly?
Kriyananda,
All
yeah,
right.
off and on in there, for not for terribly long. I had two astrology teachers in Chicago, Swami Kriyananda and Doris Hybel.
Well, Doris Hybel was a master astrologer as well.
Oh
Yes.
yes, he and I were very close. I mean, I mean, she was my teacher, and I honored that and respected it. But we were buddies. We were friends. And she gave workshops for all of my students in later on when I moved down to Champaign-Urbana. And yeah, so I had I had some good help in the early days.
Amazing. Why are you offering to look at people's charts at this workshop?
Well, I didn't like doing that initially, but I'll tell you, I got interested in it because I had done workshops all over the world and for many different groups. And I start when I would do a workshop in Fort Lauderdale, they would always ask me to do people's charts. And finally, I thought, okay, I'll do that. Uh, I don't like doing charts publicly. I hadn't liked doing charts publicly because I felt it's such a private thing and it's invasive. And to lay stuff out like that, um, I felt oh, was sacrilegious or, like somehow crossing a boundary. But I love that group in Fort Lauderdale and the
Now,
people.
which group are you talking about? The NCGR or the South Florida Astrological
I've
Association?
worked with both, but I was
Yep.
speaking specifically of the NCGR
Good.
group.
All right. Just checking.
They were like home base for me. I
Yep.
mean, I knew so many people there, and their caliber of understanding as a group. was so much higher than most astrology groups are. So it made it fun. So is there anything else on your mind you wanted to ask me about?
Oh, plenty, Bob, plenty. I will say the South Florida Astrological Association is also a great group, and
Yeah.
it is back and in action, and we need at least two astrology groups in South Florida. Um, Bob, how does your astrological practice, with its emphasis on spirituality, differ from that of other astrologers?
Well, that is a very good question. And as I tell my students, I do myself, I always get my charts done by other astrologers. I see other astrologers. I get advice from people. The difference is that my focus is on raising people's awareness to something that's beyond their own life and to help them expand their understanding of what life can be at its best. And it that requires a transformation of values where you realize, as Emerson says in his poem, The Good Life, things are in the saddle and riding mankind. And to be able to break the back of aberrant addictions and wants in life to where you start experiencing freedom, real freedom. It's sort of, I mean, and that's why in certain chapters of the book I emphasize um, working with Mars and Saturn in your own chart, which is, Mars is desire and Saturn is the Lord of karma. Um, and as Doris Hibble, the good Capricorn, would say, don't speak ill of Saturn. Where would you be without your bones, skin, and teeth? You have to have limits in order to have definition. And it's through the definition that you end up having meaning. And the purpose of creation was the development of consciousness. And to have consciousness, there had to be an evolution of form for the consciousness to become self-aware. And that process, the process of creation, the process of evolution, leads to the path opening up for the return journey back to
That's
unity.
involution, I think. You talk about it as involution in your book.
And as the return journey back to God. Um, it's it's a it's a it's a thrilling path, and it's the only quest really worth being involved with. Everything else that you go through in life is window dressing. It's preliminary. It's just to lead up to that.
So if
So,
I'm looking at my chart according to the precepts of spiritual astrology, will it tell me my best pathway
of course,
back to God?
and it will also tell you what you've done in past incarnations that you have to build on, and the tools that you have for treading the path now. There is a magic um, that unfolds in the process where you develop what's called non-binding karma, where your actions stop having a, 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 a,
Karmic repercussions?
a building block in front of you that you can't use, where you end up with this stuff that's just there in your life. And it's it, getting beyond it is very difficult, but it can be done. And the truth is, everybody eventually has to do it. There's nowhere else to go. Hey, what else is on your plate?
Well, I noticed in going over your manuscript, you have a slightly different take on the moon. I wonder if you could talk to me a little bit about that. Two of your keywords seem to be transcendence and transformation.
Look at the moon is, I mean, we could talk for hours on this, but look at be simple minded about it. All the other planets revolve around the sun, which is the ego, the inner sense of self. The moon revolves around the earth. The circle that the moon creates around the earth is like the ring past knot. In a magical arena, in order to pass through that circle, you have to become friends with the creator of the circle. So the moon is mother. My favorite symbol in Hindu mythology and also Hindu astrology is the moon as goddess Kali. And Kali is envisioned as having her back to the creation point, the Om point, looking into creation. So she does not see the creator. She only sees her creation. And that's the moon is in that sense, in that larger sense, is the ruler of the environment. In horary astrology, the moon is a co-ruler of everything. Duh.
Right.
Well, that's the reason. It's like the moon can, you know, you the moon controls the tides. The moon controls, moves all the water on the planet. And that magnetic attraction of the moon as mother, uh, gives birth to everything that happens in life. So, yeah, the moon has a spiritual dimension, as everything does. But also, everything has anything that has a beginning has an end. And the moon is a protector, just like your aura is a protector. But a chicken pecks its way out of the eggshell. It doesn't carry the eggshell around on its back for the rest of its life. It's done with that. It's like, as we mature as adults, we move away from our family of origin, but we still have a relationship with them, hopefully. And we go on and establish something in our own right, and our roots are there, and those roots are shown by the chart. And the moon, as the ruler of the past, is the key to showing what the trail has been in your life that led up till now.
This moment now. I wonder, the big three in astrology that get emphasized over and over again are the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. Do either the sun or the ascendant have an additional or expanded symbolism in this
I talk about,
system?
my book has 3 sections in it. The spiritual fundamentals, conferring with the planets, and how karma works. The first section, spiritual fundamentals, gives a description of how the sun operates, how the ascendant operates, and how the moon operates in 4 chapters. So it's and I'm a simple guy. And as I try to read every other astrologer's everything, but my own system is to be as simple as possible. As the philosopher Goethe said, what nature doesn't reveal in the broad daylight, we will not be able to force out with our mechanical mechanisms. So it's right there on the surface. It's just a matter of being able to see it with fresh eyes.
Well, I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about what Saturn means in this system. You talk about Saturn being the friend, the spiritual friend.
Hey, like, have you ever, when you were a small child, did you ever want something that if you'd gotten it, you would have hurt yourself? See, Saturn has the ability to be a barrier in your life that prevents you from doing something stupid. Now, yeah, of course, you can force your way through often, but Saturn, as the Lord of Karma, of course, it's your friend. It's like it tells you what you can do and what you can't do. It's like um, Saturn is never mean or malicious. It's just what it is. And that is a great ally.
What
I
is
mean,
what would your attitude be towards predicting in this system?
well, in my book, but between astrologers and clients,
A great book, by the way, that's still in print that I love.
well, somebody came to see me just a few days ago that I hadn't ever met before. They're not an astrologer, and they told me they read that book twice, and they used it as a foundation for their practice, which is in another field. So it seems to have wide applicability. But as I said in my chapter on prediction, uh, would it have helped me when I was going into my first marriage to know that I was going to be married 3 times? I mean, I think it's an important question. To me,
Was it helpful, or did it just have you looking at your watch? Well, I've made it 5 years in this marriage. I mean,
see, the thing is, I believe that information, in order to be useful, has to have some meaning in your life for where you are mentally and emotionally. The reason that most people don't remember their past incarnations is because of attachment. If they were completely detached, it would all be revealed. It's easy. But it's the attachment. If you saw somebody that you used to be married to in another lifetime, all of these emotions get going, and it's like it becomes very confusing. And it's like having boundaries is a very good thing. So I always ask myself when I'm talking to a client in the Buddhist conception, is what I'm about to say truthful? Is it necessary? Is it kind? That's the 3 criteria. And if it flunks any of them, then it's not worth saying. Uh, the the deal is what we want to do for each of us is just to find a mechanism for moving forward. And often we want something that isn't in our best interest. And karma operates as an external law of the universe that's just there. And it is a guide if we learn to listen. So that's why Saturn is a friend. Saturn is a great friend.
does your own chart still have the capacity to surprise you?
Life has a capacity to surprise me. Everything is a surprise in a sense. Um, you know, uh, it, I go for a walk 3 times a day. I walk down the same street. I see many of the same people. The grass is the same, the trees are the same, but it's a new experience every time. Because as Heraclitus says, you can't step into the same river twice.
Yeah.
Always a new day. So yes, I have been told things about my chart by, like a second year student at times that were amazing. I thought, oh, I never really thought about it that way, you know? Anyway, it's all, to me, it boils down to, is it useful? Is this a helpful thing? So, hey, Scott, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the workshop. You and I have a long history together, and
I look forward to being there. Your book will be available to buy at the workshop. How much will it be? Do
it'll
we
be
know?
$36.
Okay. Will you be signing the book after the talk for those who would like it signed? Good.
Yeah, and uh, it is approximately 450 pages, but it's a real page turner, meaning when over the last 20 years, whenever somebody would be reading the book and they would say, "Oh, I said, did you finish chapter 2? He says, well, I got halfway through and then I had to have dinner. I said, tell me exactly where you were when you set the book down. And they told me, and I said, okay, that must be boring. Because if it was really exciting, you wouldn't have been able to set it down. That's my criteria. You know, when you're reading a novel and it's so exciting, you just don't want to put it down. I always wanted my book to read like that. And I give this illustration, and I tell them in the beginning of the book. When I was a young astrologer, I'd been uh, practicing just for a few years at the time. I had this dream, and in the dream, I was walking in a snowstorm. And anybody who knows me, I hate being cold. And, you know, I grew up in Illinois. And so we're walking, and I'm holding my mother's hand, and I'm just a little boy. And we're walking, and we don't have proper clothes. We're hungry. We have no way to get out of the element, but I knew she loved me, and I loved her. And we're walking along, and I looked up, and she was astrology. And I knew from that moment on that astrology was an entity, that it was a divine mother. And I've always had that relationship with her. And when I would be stumped on something, my master would say, you can go and ask the mother, you can go ask astrology. And she gave me the 5 gifts of astrology, which is the first chapter of my book.
Can you
Which
list the 5 gifts of astrology for us?
and any astrologer has these gifts open just through the study of
Right.
astrology,
I
which is
believe I know number one is tolerance, right?
tolerance, timing, um, comprehensiveness, self-understanding, and the spiritual path. And they interlock with each other. So yeah. And you know, I again, I did not know how to start the book. I had been writing for years. And I just said to the mother of astrology, how do I start? She says, oh, start here, the 5 gifts. She just gave it to me and I unpacked it, and that was the first chapter of the book. So yeah,
Okay.
no, we've got a journey to go together. And I do not guarantee that I will ever do this workshop again. And I have never done it
So
before.
we want to see you all at this workshop, February 15th, 2025, either in person or astrally online, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., right?
Yes,
10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a break for lunch and a couple of little breaks just to
yeah, to stand up, stretch your legs, walk around a little bit.
and great, Bob. Well, listen, thanks for making the time to talk to me. And before you know it, it will be February 15th. So I hope the cover artist, Deborah, can be there remotely.
Oh,
So,
yeah. That that is Paula,
yes,
Paula Bellamini. Anyway, you take care. Thanks a
you
lot.
take care. All right. Thank you so much. And I'm going to end this now. But again, to find out more details, you can go to astrologyfla.com or theastrologyshop.com for the details if you find them drifting away from your incredibly high vibrational state.
And you can always just contact me at my website or by email.
What's your email, Bob?
BobMulliga at AOL.com.
Oh, listen, how will people get their birth information to you if they want their chart
When they
looked at?
register, when they register, give it to Christine. Christine
Chase.
Chase, the person taking registrations. And I asked her to people were sending it to me, but I
To
asked her to
take and collate the birth data. Fantastic.
collect it. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and it should be great fun.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Bye bye.